Hey y'all. Hi. Surprise. I mean, not really a surprise because you knew that this was going to happen. You knew that I was going to move, but I have now moved. I'm here in my new location, and this video is going to be a get ready with me, a chatty get ready with me, in which I apply this makeup and tell you where I am, why we decided to come here, and really like kind of wax philosophic and go on tangents about how this move has been, the time leading up to it, the decision making process around it, the move itself. It's just been such an unusual move and such an unusual year for so many people, and we are no exception. If this happens to be your first time to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Hannah, and I'm a passionate lover of beautiful things, but I don't want to be an overconsumer of beautiful things, and I also don't want to overspend on them. So I try to keep a balance in my life, and I try to keep a balance here on my channel. I love to celebrate beauty. I believe that it can add value to a life. I love reviewing beauty products and sharing my excitement about them, but without losing perspective about the role that they play in the larger context of a good and healthy life. So if that kind of balanced content sounds good to you, please subscribe to my channel. Now let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Face feels kind of sticky. And I can't even remember what kind of lotions and potions I put on it before. I am going to use the Danessa Myricks primer today, so maybe I'll go ahead and just put that on so that I don't feel weird. And also, you know, I'm on the struggle bus with my skin a little bit right now. I'm sure it's because of stress. I always get this really red chin and little bumps on my chin. So this is the Danessa Myricks Cover FX. No, not Cover FX. The Prism FX Hydrating Lotion. If you didn't see my Danessa Myricks review and you're interested in this product, then go and watch that. I'm just going to be putting it on right now. But I gave my full and thorough thoughts about it in my most recent YouTube video. That's just one pump. I think it's so lovely. It's such a good product. I'm actually going to proceed with skin and then go in and do my eyes. I just kind of feel like my skin is what really needs help right now. So I'm going to do some color corrector and my concealer and get to telling you what's going on. So do you remember my friend Julia? Many of you will remember her, and if you don't, if you didn't see the videos in which she is featured, I really recommend watching them. She was a guest on my series that I called My Beautiful Friend. So I had my friend Julene on, and Angie was on, and Julia was one of my beautiful friends who was featured on my channel. We put on makeup together and just talked about our lives, women's issues, our past. We did like Q&A style. We answered questions. She was also on my channel when I did the build your own advent calendar. I made an advent calendar last year out of my own makeup. So I was like opening my own makeup every day and getting excited about being reunited with the makeup that was in the advent calendar. And I needed a friend to help me put the things in the advent calendar, to like pick them and pack them so that I wouldn't know what it was that was packed away. So Julia was in that video too. She did that for me too. If you saw that video, then you may remember that she was pretty pregnant in that video. And that would have been at the end of last year because it was like advent calendar season. I think it might have been in November of last year that we filmed that video together and I did that project. So I'm really trying to buff that mix of color corrector and concealer into my skin, but I'm having a hard time getting it to stick on the parts of my face that are flaring up. So the redness on my chin and the hormonal redness that so many people get around the edges of the nose. So I'm going to go into my more heavy duty concealer. It's the NARS Soft Matte Creamy. I actually just replaced it. I finally replaced my grody old one because I realized that not only is it getting so old, it's like 3 years old, and so it's probably not sanitary anymore, but the color had changed. It had darkened over time and it wasn't a good match for my skin anymore. I'm gonna go get it though. I forgot to bring it over here. So I'm gonna use this on a little brush to spot conceal those areas that aren't really taking the other products very well. So Julia lives in LA. Months ago, after like the first flush of panic around the pandemic, when things had settled down enough and we'd gotten used to this new reality enough that we felt comfortable doing it, I came over and sat in the backyard with her, you know, several feet away, and got to at least see the baby from a distance and check in and see how things were going for her. Joe and I were just getting to the point where we were realizing that we were going to need to close our business. And then, as a consequence of that, we were going to need to leave our apartment. On the off chance that you're, watching this, if it's your first time to my channel and you don't really know the context, I have been making my living for a decade now, making by hand clothes for women who dance Argentine tango and selling those clothes on my own website. So it's like a really, really, really tiny basically artisan business of handmade clothing for this very, very specific demographic, like a really specific market. When the pandemic started, tango had to be put on hold because it's a very intimate dance. You're like hugging the other person and sweating all over them. And in a tango event, there are between a handful and 100 or hundreds of people all in the room together, all sweating on each other and hugging each other and dancing. So it's just not something that we can do while there's a global pandemic. And without tango, we can't really sell our tango clothes, and we don't know how long the pandemic is going to last. And we just could not continue to hang on and pay the overhead that we were paying to keep our business running. We closed the business. And because the vast majority of our income came from that business, we couldn't afford the apartment that we were living in LA anymore. So we stayed for a couple months more while we figured out what we were going to do. But to get back to what I was saying, the story that I was telling, I was hanging out with Julia. I was about to leave, and we were talking about the fact that Joe and I sort of had this big decision to make, and there are so many possibilities. Like, we've considered so many things, from like moving to a different country to like going back to where my family lives. Needless to say, there was a lot of making of lists with pros and cons of different things, and a lot of really exciting options that we invested a lot of time and energy into making realities, and then they didn't come to fruition. It was like a pretty long and grueling process. But this conversation with Julia that I'm telling you about, it was actually kind of at the beginning of that. We hadn't really started trying to decide what we were going to do yet. We'd sort of just been brainstorming a tiny bit, but it was just the beginning. And Julia was like, as soon as the pandemic hit, we started asking each other, she and her husband, Oliver, she was like, we started asking each other if we should ask you guys if you wanted to move in with us. And I was like, what? Not that I was like against the idea or something. It's just so generous, like so sweet. I mean, they're such kind-hearted, open people. And we talked about it a little bit at that moment, and immediately I started to understand why it might actually work. And it's in large part because they have a new baby, and COVID is making it hard for them to execute the plan that they had for childcare, because they both work full time and they're both already back at work full time. And they can't send her to the daycare that they were expecting to send her to. They don't have the same amount of family help that they were expecting to have, because travel has been much more difficult for family members. They're in this situation where they're in this house, spoiler alert, this house, that's where I am right now. They're in this house and they have the task of taking care of the baby, the task of both doing their jobs remotely from the house, and also the task of just household, just having a house, like, making sure that the food all gets cooked and things stay relatively clean. And, on top of that, just the work of like living with another person and being everything to each other is so intense when you first have a baby. And it's also been so intense for everyone who's living with another person during COVID. Like, it's so intense. What you are to each other becomes so intense when it's just the two of you in one space for months and months on end. When we were moving out of our studio apartment that we lived in, we moved out all our stuff, and the space looks a lot smaller with nothing in it. That was like a weird thing about the space that we were living in. With all our stuff in it, it really felt livable. And when we got all the stuff out, I looked at it, at this like 700 square foot one room space. And I was like, we just spent 5 months together in this room almost without intermission. Like the two of us and Sadie, the three of us, we were literally in this room pretty much the whole time, both of us together for months and months on end. It's so intense. Sorry, I'm getting totally carried away and failing to do my makeup. I am just gonna go in on my eyes. Oh, first I'm gonna put the Alter Ego shadow base on. Love it so much. And then I'm gonna go in with this pink, this like grimy pink color from the Flower Beauty palette. I really, really love this eyeshadow. It's the one that I used when I did like a full-on demonstration and review of this palette with swatches. That's a very thorough review video. If you haven't seen it and you're interested in this palette, I recommend watching that. But I've just continued to go back and back again to this specifically for this one grungy pink color. I really love it. So I'm gonna put that all over my lids and buff it out. And I think that might be all. I might put a little bit of this Danessa Myricks. I don't know if I'm going to film another video today. This is the first time I filmed in the new space, so I think I probably need to just edit this and make sure that everything went well before I film again. So I'm really just getting ready for the fun of it, and I'm going to go a little bit light on the eyes. So I'll do that as I continue to talk. So when Julia first proposed the idea, it seemed like kind of a pipe dream, honestly, because this has been the most challenging decision-making period of my life. I think it's really weird when you have to leave the situation that you got yourself into because it was ideal, because something really unexpected and on a global scale has happened, so that it's been hard to make a decision. It's been hard to figure out like what the best thing for us would be, when the best thing for us would have been to keep running our business and keep staying in our apartment and keep living our lives, right? It's like there is no best thing. So it's been hard. And I remember when we first had the conversation, I was just like, wow, that seems like it would be really magical. But it also felt like it was sort of a fantasy, because we have always fantasized about living communally. Like I've always had a fantasy about living together, like in houses side by side, with like my sister and her boyfriend in one house and Joe and me in the other. And Julia and I and our friends have always talked about, finding a way to like live on a little commune together where we like all pitch in to raise everyone's kids and we all like share responsibility. And I think a lot of people these days have had that fantasy. If you've talked about that with your friends or siblings or something, let me know in the comment section down below. Like not like a 60s commune, but also not this contemporary attachment to the nuclear family, which is really relatively recent in human history. Like I think for Americans, it started in like the 1950s. That's not that long ago. This attachment to having like the space be just your own and having everyone have their own whole space that's all separate from everyone's other space. I feel like for years now, my friends and I have been thinking outside that box, but just as a fantasy. And our reality has been that we've been just following that path, even though we're like, wouldn't it be great if we could do something alternative to this and just combine forces and maximize our resources. And I think maybe partly because it's always kind of been this pipe dream that's always felt like a fantasy. When she first brought it up, I was like, that is so incredible of you that you've been talking about that you and Ollie have been considering it. But it took some time, I think, for us to realize that it could really work. It could really work for everyone. And it took Joe and me some time of going through a lot of trial and error with thinking through other options to realize that this is the best one for us. And when we finally decided, as I indicated in my check-in last month, we were so relieved. I feel like I have a booger protruding from my nose that's been there this whole time. Oh, it made my nose really red. Sorry. I mean, why am I apologizing to you? Like, it's not my responsibility to you to not have my nose be red during a get ready with me. All right, I'm gonna blend that out with a brush, but before I pick up a brush, I just am warning you that my brushes are indescribably filthy. I should have washed them before we moved. I did that thing where I like packed something really dirty and moved it to a new location. Like, I don't know if I can even find a clean enough brush. Maybe this one. I'm gonna wash them right after I finish filming this video. I promise. I'm literally gonna do it today. Anyway, to make a long story, like not that much shorter, but you know, I'm making a long story like really long because I'm like, let me tell you, way back when I was a child at the beginning of COVID, I was sitting with Julia on the lawn. Like that's already the story that I'm telling, but you know, to condense the months of agonizing decision making and you know, identity crisis, because that's really a lot of what's happening, I feel like, for those of us who have had to make major life changes and do things that we didn't plan on and didn't expect because of the pandemic. There's something about the way that gets in amongst your identity. And right before I sat down to film this, actually, I was saying to Julia that I'm nervous about filming it. And I think that it's because I have been doing this YouTube project that has to do with sharing my identity. And 2020 has been a year that has undermined my sense of self. And I'm having to piece it back together. And it's hard enough to do that when you're not engaged in an ongoing project of sharing your identity on the internet. Um, Having to do it online adds an extra dimension. So it's just been a really interesting, the thing I'm doing right now, leading up to this, preparing myself to sit down and talk about this, has been a really interesting moment for me in my YouTube trajectory. But anyway, I was talking about the long months of deciding what we we're going to do and reckoning with our senses of self. To make that story short, we decided, gosh, when was it? Like a month or two ago, maybe at this point, a month and a half ago, to accept their proposal. And we've spent a lot of time writing in a joint Google Doc, brainstorming about, you know, all of our needs and preferences and what we expect and what we're worried about. And it is a little bit interesting to be filming this now because we have moved here. We've moved into Julia and Oliver's house. And we have put some preliminary plans in place for the way that we're going to combine forces. You know, the overall idea is that we have, as a group of 4 adult people, we have one baby that needs to be taken care of. We have a kitchen and we have meals that need to be cooked. Like everyone needs to be fed. And we have a house that needs to be kept in good shape. You know what I mean? Like things put away, things cleaned. And we have 4 jobs. My job and Joe's work are much more malleable and non-traditional because we do creative work. You know, we lost our main job, which was the business, but I still have my writing work and my YouTube channel. And Joe is starting to help me with my YouTube channel, which is really fun. He's never had time to do that before. It's kind of cool to have him on board because he's much more of like a business minded person than I am, and he's also much better at equipment. Like he has actually just in the past couple of weeks gotten me a boom pole so that the microphone is really close to me, and we're hoping that'll improve the sound. He's going to be slowly making improvements to every aspect of my channel over time, so that's really cool. So that work that we share, and then he also has creative projects that he is bringing to fruition. We're really thinking of this year as like time to rebuild, to build, not to rebuild, because we're not rebuilding the business that we closed, but we need to build our other creative projects up enough to take its place. And we're going to be here while we do that. So that's our work right now. So we have that work, and then Julie and Oliver have their jobs, which are more traditional hours and, you know, more traditional types of labor. There's 4 of us. There's 1 baby. There's 2 pets. They have a dog. She hasn't laid eyes on Sadie yet. Sadie's doing amazing. I'll talk a little more about how Sadie's doing at the end of the video. But the idea is that you know, 4 adults, 1 baby, 2 pets, 1 house. Everyone needs to do their work, get enough food to eat, get enough sleep at night, and not get COVID. And we feel like we're stronger together, and that the four of us together can have a better year. All of us have a better year than we would have apart. I'm getting emotional because it's so lovely. And I'm really grateful. And also because I'm a wreck. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's like this is a weird time. It's a weird moment. I've never had a move that was so uncontrolled and unplanned. It's the weirdest move we've ever made in that a lot of our stuff went into storage, and some of our stuff went into Julia and Oliver's garage, and then an edit of our stuff is here with us in this space, but we couldn't bring everything. For example, like, it wouldn't have made sense to bring all of our art. And when I was doing my art tour, I told you this was like a farewell to our art tour, because our art is now in a storage unit along with a lot of our furniture. And I also had like a raging ear infection. I got like a bona fide, straight up like ear infection in this ear last week, right when we were packing, when like everything was happening. And I haven't had one since I was a baby. It's so uncomfortable. It was like a real full-on thing. Like, I had to get antibiotics for it. Like, it was that. It was horrible. It makes you feel kind of like you're underwater, and it also really, really hurts. I just wasn't aware like this was the thing. But you know how I got the ear infection? It was by taking a bath and getting water into my ear, and then sleeping with an earplug in. And bacteria grew in my ear overnight because the water hadn't evaporated out of my ear. Horrible, but beware. I wish someone had told me to beware, because I love a little bath, and I also love a little earplug when I'm trying to sleep. All right, I feel like the narrative, the part of this Get Ready With Me where I tell you where we moved and why and what we're doing here, is getting a little bit blown off course. It's getting a little bit all over the place. I did make notes, but I haven't been consulting them. My computer appears to be, oh yeah, it's out of batteries, but now I have to wait for it to turn back on. So I think that what I was getting at way back when I was still on the track of telling you the things that I meant to tell you is that we have this general plan that we have put in place. Just oh good, it turned back on. My notes. So I have told you, looking at my notes now, and I have said about half the things that I was planning to say, but I said them totally out of order. It's fine. We have been planning out the way in which we will execute the plan being to really combine forces and, make everyone's lives easier, like work together as a group. The other thing that's wonderful about it is that we will be less lonely. So what I was talking about it being so intense, to have it just be the two of you, it's already, so we just moved and we're still very discombobulated. We're just starting to get set up. So we haven't yet started in with the part where we're like getting groceries together and like learning how to take care of the baby. That's one of the things that Joe and I are going to be doing, in the coming week, so that we can pitch in and they can keep more normal work hours. So we haven't quite started with that because we're still getting settled in. And I think it'll actually be really interesting to report back about that stuff as we move through it. And Julia is totally open to being on my channel. We'll find out some way to like periodically sit down, Julia and I together, and answer questions and tell you how it's going. So I don't need to burden this video right now with all of the details of what we've discussed in terms of how we will handle like the logistics of making this plan work. And again, what I'm trying to say is that because we just got here, we haven't quite started putting that part of the plan into action yet. But the cool thing is that the part of it that has to do with being company for each other with the pandemic, making it so that you can't be with other people except for the people in your pod or in your bubble, that part of it has already had a transformative effect on, I feel like, my daily life. Just knowing, I mean, first of all, maybe specifically knowing that my dear friend, who I have known for, like, we've known each other for longer than we've known our husbands. I met Julia before I met Joe, and that was before she met Oliver. So it's really a lot of history that's there. So knowing that my dear friend is here in my life, like I can speak with her, and the conversation I had with her right before I sat down to film, in my old life, in our old apartment, I would have had that with Joe. You know what I mean? I would have waylaid Joe while he was doing something else and been like, I'm about to film, but I'm nervous. And he's lovely and it would have been great. But it was actually so amazing that what happened was I said that to Julia and got a totally different kind of take on it, totally different pep talk, totally different kind of support than I would have had if we weren't here together in the same house. I think that's basically all I'm going to do on my eyes. I know it's not much for me. Like I usually go the distance. I usually smoke it out. I'm not smoking it out today. But I am going to put a dab of this Myrick's, where are you? Oh, here. This Myrick's Color Fix Foil in the middle of the lids just to make them look a little bit more wet. I don't know how this blend is. I'm not really focused on making the makeup look good. The makeup's just an excuse to sit down and spill the tea. Oh, so one of the things I was going to say about the house that we've moved into, Julia and Oliver's house, is that it's in LA, but it's in a very different part of LA. So we were living in the middle of downtown, which is basically like, it's the most like Manhattan of any part of LA. Like it really has that big city feel, skyscrapers, dirty, smoky, noisy, close quarters, that kind of thing. We were living in a city. We are still in LA, but the feel of the space is just very different. It's a much calmer part of this sprawling metropolis. And again, like they have a little backyard, little grass out there. There's a grapefruit tree out there. And that is just amazing. Like to be able to, this morning when I was eating my eggs, I made little eggs, I put them in a bowl, and I stepped out of the back door into the open air. And I just stood there in the sun outdoors while I ate my eggs. That's amazing to me, coming from having just like, again, been in like this hermetically sealed 700 square foot space since March. I'm putting like a line. This is kind of interesting, actually. This is like a little makeup tangent. When people talk about putting like a pop on the lid, right? Because I have hooded eyes, I'm taking that pop all the way up in like a column almost to my brow. So I'm not just placing it on my eyelid. If I did that, then you'd only see a little flash when I close my eyes. But I'm basically putting I don't know, it's like an inch, half inch of it, maybe almost an inch of it in the middle of each lid and going way up here so that you get that effect of like light on water on the whole eye, even when the eye is open. And it also creates more of a sense of a curve, like something, a curved surface where there's like a reflection of light in the middle. So it makes my eyes look more dimensional, like they're more like lighter lights and deeper shadows. And then it makes it look like more of my lid is my eye rather than being like my brow bone. I don't know if this is making sense. These are the times that try men's souls. The house has 2 floors, and Julie and Oliver's bedroom is upstairs, and so is the baby's room. And there's another room up there that has a bed in it. I think it has been a guest room in the past, but Oliver's been using it as his office. And Julia also has her office up there. They proposed that we move into 2 rooms on the first floor that aren't bedrooms, but that they haven't really been using just because of the circumstances of the year. So it's a dining room and a living room that are connected by pocket doors that slide closed, glass pocket doors that slide closed. So the room that I'm in now is the room that was their dining room. When they moved into the house, they set it up. There's actually a really beautiful glass chandelier right there, right above where I'm filming, because this was where the dining room table was. And then the room that's right behind me, I'll show it to you at some point when we get it set up. I'll take you through and show you. The room that's connected to it was a living room. So there's a fireplace in there. There were couches and a rug, and there was a coffee table in there. And they moved that furniture out. And so we've put the bed in the room that was the living room. It was open to the rest of the house through a doorway that also had pocket doors. So we were able to close those pocket doors. And so our 2 rooms, it's sort of like a little suite. One of the best things is that this is a better filming setup than I've ever had. So in the bedroom, we have Joe's desk, his workspace, and his clothing, and our bed, and a couple of other mostly Joe things. And in this room, I have my clothes on a rack, and the filming set station is right here in the middle of the room. And then we're shooting into the corner where my vanity is. I broke my vanity mirror during the move. That was like one of the tragedies. I set it up against something and then it fell over and smashed, and the lights were stuck to it. So I'm using a little tiny portable tabletop mirror at my vanity right now, but I'm using it in front of me right now. That's why there's a gap there where it should be. And I'm working on acquiring another vanity mirror. If you have one that you really love that wasn't too expensive, let me know. Like a good tabletop mirror that has the lights around it. Not only will it be useful for me, but it will help to light the background of the videos, because when the lights are on the vanity mirror there, it'll just look a little cheerier back there. I know it looks a little bit glum right now, but you can see it's just better, right? Like I'm better lit. I feel like the sound is better, and it will improve as Joe continues to work on it. And it's also practically better. I know visually it's like fine, but it's practically better because I can walk all the way around the filming setup. I was so crammed in the old apartment. It's very unconventional and funky because you can totally tell that we're living in a dining room and a living room. Like they're not bedrooms. They weren't designed to be bedrooms. And there are architectural aspects of them that make them unequivocally not bedrooms. So it's very different, but practically in terms of space, it's just really better. Like I've landed in a better place for my YouTube channel than I was before. And with Joe's help too, I'm just excited. I'm excited about being able to produce content more efficiently and to feel like I have better resources for that. So I already touched on something else that's on my list of notes, is the thing of how our stuff is spread all over the place. And actually that reminds me that the year of less stuff has gotten really weird. And I think that I think I might go ahead with this video and clip off the very intro, the intro, like where I say that my name is Hannah and this is my year of less stuff, because it's not that my heart's not in it. I need to keep going while I do this. I'm gonna put on mascara. Oh, and I'm gonna put on this mascara, the Lash Freak. I've been using the Pat McGrath one, the Dark Star, every day because I love it. But some of you have been asking for me to put this on camera. I know this isn't like the best close-up demo. Hopefully you'll still be able to see the wand. I know a lot of people have been like, how's the wand gonna stay clean? Because in all the promo photos, they showed it with the green part of the wand, the part that doesn't have spikes on it, like green and cleaned off. And that was just the lie of advertising. Of course it doesn't stay clean. It's completely covered with mascara. It's a very goopy, gunky mascara. I like it, but I don't love it, I would say. I think I was just going to again touch on the fact that we were talking about the year of less stuff. That's right. I am not going to abandon the plan of recounting all my stuff at the end of the year, because the categories of things that I was keeping track of with the year of less stuff, all I brought with me for the most part, I think. So it's clothes, makeup, and like hair care and body care and that kind of stuff. So I could still count on my clothes at the end of the year and count my makeup at the end of the year and see if I ended up with less stuff than I started with and all that stuff. And I am still planning to do that. But it's just that it has become such a minor feature of my existence this year. And so much of my stuff is I'm living without it. Not that type of stuff, but the rest of it, like the stuff that I've been collecting over years and years, my furniture, my art, most of my kitchen utensils, my books. I picked like one box of books to have with me, and I put all of the rest of the books in storage. Like that, it feels like the idea of the year of less stuff is almost comical now, given that this year has really shaken and convoluted my my relationship with my stuff, and that has been totally unexpected. Again, I'll make a concrete decision to think about this in and then report back about it in my check-in, because this is really check-in material. It's really where it should go. But I'm just talking off the cuff in this video, and I thought that I would mention it. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I am still doing the year of less stuff myself with my own stuff, but I think that it feels right to remove it as a feature of my channel. So as being aggressively like the main framing device of my channel, because for the past month or two, every time I've said it on camera, I've just felt so weird. So not disingenuous, but just like it started to feel not right. It's just started to feel like that's not really what this is the year of. It's like, my name is Hannah, and this is the year that a global pandemic hit, and that I had to close my business and move out of my apartment. Like, that's really what it's the year of, and the year of less stuff seems so frivolous in comparison to that, and I don't want to just keep going with it arbitrarily. So yeah, I'll think about it. I'll talk it over again with you in the check-in, depending on what I decide to do. But I'm bringing it up because a serious and weird feature of this move has been that when we were boxing everything up, we had 3 different destinations, and we were having to make decision after decision after decision about whether each item should go into a storage box, a garage box, or like a life box. And the decision fatigue is real. Like, I'm at the end of my ability to make decisions about anything, and I think it's going to take me like a week or two to get the capacity to make those decisions replenished. And that's part of why I'm so kind of bumbling and just like all over the place and scattered. Like, I think that my brain, which was already being chipped away at by what's going on in the world, the last vestiges of my brain were like decimated by packing for this move and moving. So I don't know how well you can see the mascara, and I just don't have it in me to figure out how to zoom in from this distance because I'm further from the camera than I was before. This mascara is applying like sheets of itself to my lashes. Really, it's like turning my lashes into 2 sheets. The group of lashes that's on each eye. It's turning each eye into an eye that just has a sheet of lashes, is what I'm trying to say. And I do kind of like that. It's just a bit testy. And you really have to keep going at it. I think with this mascara, one coat looks horrible. Like when you just put on one coat, and then if you keep going and keep going, you start getting this like sheet of lashes effect that I do quite like. It's not as good for the lower lashes though, for that very reason, because I don't really apply like coats and coats and coats to the lower lashes. Usually my lower lashes just get like one coat, and it just doesn't look as good. But the overall effect is kind of good. I'm just gonna put a little of Glossier Boy Brow in my brows. I have pretty much completely used up the Patrick Ta brow wax, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's one of the decisions that I haven't had time to make, whether I'm gonna buy it again or not. And in the meantime, I have this on hand. So I've just been using it to kind of like get my brows to stand up a little bit, but I haven't been doing much to my brows these days, except that I did dye them recently, so they at least like exist on my face. And Boy Brow, I decided to try it again because my memory of it was that it was too weak a hold for my brows. And that is still true. Like, I can't really get them to, it doesn't lock them in place all day. And my brows are so stubborn and wiry that that's what I need. But it does give me a better result than I would have if I just left them. Like, it does give them some shape. It does give them a little bit of polish. I'm going to tell you about the blush I'm going to wear. Cosmetics sent me the Color Drops Serum blushes. They were going to send all 8 of them so that I could do like a swatch comparison video, which I can't wait to do that. I love doing those like overhead shot videos that are really detailed and close up. I'd never tried this formula before. I've actually not tried it yet. They arrived at my old apartment right before we left. So this is going to be the maiden voyage of the serum blush for me. But they were out of stock of the other two, the really bright red one and the purple one. They're going to send along those other two when they come back in stock, and then I'll film that swatch video. But in the meantime, let's find out about the formula. I think I'm going to try this one. It's one of the new colors, Venetian Rose. It's interesting. It looks like the most nude one. It's this one right here in the upper corner. Of all of them, it looks like the one that's like has the most brown in it. And that's my jam. I also like the looks of Rose Milk down here, and I really like the looks of Sunset Sky. It looks pretty special. But let's try Venetian Rose. I'm tempted by Sunset Sky, but let's try Venetian Rose because it'll be harder to mess it up basically because it's a more neutral color. Sunset Sky I might have to do a little bit of tentative experimenting with during makeup playtime. So Sadie, speaking of Sadie, she's right over here being super cute. I know a bunch of you are going to want to know how she's doing, and the answer is shockingly well. She's doing shockingly well. She does know that the dog is here, so we've kept her in our, a lot of people have talked about how, okay, well, welcome to kind of a frenetic moment in the video because I'm going to be trying to review my first impression of this blush, tell you how it's going with Sadie, and apply the blush all at the same time. It's going to be awesome. So people have been talking about how the dropper is kind of faulty on this, and I saw something on the website that was like, pull it out most of the way, push it down to expel air, put it back in, suck up the product, and then the dropper will work. That's what it said. Yeah, it worked. That worked. Okay, that's good to know. A little fussy, but it's good to know that it's not actually like completely defunct. Oh yeah, that's serum-y. Oh my gosh, this color. The first time we ever moved with Sadie, when she had only lived in the house that she was a kitten in, she was horrified. Like, you know, cats are really creatures of place, and many cats struggle with changes. They don't like change. She doesn't like change. She doesn't like it when we pack suitcases when she can tell that something's about to happen. And she did not like it when we were packing up the apartment. She was really unhappy for a long time. Once she cottoned on, when she first started seeing the moving boxes, she was stressed out. But this is like the 6th or 7th time that we've moved with Sadie to a new location, and she's gotten better every time. So she really was like quite brave when we first got here. This blush is, you know, people are always like, do a tutorial about how to fake a sunscreen. Here's the tutorial. Get this blush. It's not just the color, it's like the finish. Do I not just look like I was at the beach? I'm gonna tone it down a little bit using the foundation brush that I had. So I'm working on making sure there's not such a sharp line under the eye, because that is the real sunburn look, right? Like the sun only hit to there and it makes kind of a sharp line. So I'm softening that, and I'm softening the line down here too. You know, she doesn't like being in her carrier. She didn't like it when on moving day we shut her in the bathroom at the apartment. She didn't like it when we let her out after we'd moved all the furniture out in the old apartment and she saw that it was gone. We did that just, I don't know, we were hoping that like it would help her little brain to process what had happened. She was like, where's my stuff? Where are my rugs? Where's my couch? And then we brought her over to the new place where the couch is not here, it's in storage, but at least the bed and the rugs are familiar to her. We thought she was gonna hide and be scared, but she didn't. She just started rubbing her face all over everything and looking out the windows, and she's just been incredibly brave. I'm actually like really proud of her. It went very smoothly with her. And then she almost immediately started wanting to go out into the rest of the house. So we've been keeping her in here, and she just is livid. She's like, why am I not? She's like, I can tell that there are more rooms in this house and there are other people in this house. When am I going to go out there and see everything and smell everything and be with the other people? She loves us, and so she especially hates it when we're out like in the breakfast room and she can hear us through the door, and she'll like cry and cry at the door. She's tried to open the pocket doors with her little paws. She can get them like an inch apart, but she can't get them any further than that. She can't wait to get out into the rest of the house. She'd obviously love to go outside as well, but we probably won't let her out here. It's dangerous for cats in LA because there are coyotes that eat cats, so she probably won't ever get to actually go outside. She will get to go out into the rest of the house. We're giving it some time because the dog that lives in the house is not really a cat person. She's I think she's gonna have a hard time when she realizes that Sadie's gonna be living here with her. So we're giving her some time to get used to it before we actually introduce them to each other. But Sadie's doing perfectly fine, and I don't know, I'll put some pictures of her on Instagram or something soon. I've been more active on Instagram lately, so if you want to know how it's going, follow me on Instagram. Okay, the blush, love it. I'm actually, the tales that they've told are true. I wonder if the finish that I'm getting this kind of gleamy skin-like finish. It's like a healthy skin finish. I wonder if that will last throughout the day or if that is just a result of the fact that it's still kind of damp. Or maybe it will stay kind of damp. We'll find out. I'll obviously give a more thorough review of this in a later video. All right, I only have lips left. Oh no, I'm gonna do my neck a little bit because I've been feeling very like red. My face, when my face is this red under my makeup, I just can never quite get it light enough with makeup to match my neck, so I have to darken up my neck. I also wanted to touch on the baby. One of the things I'm really excited about is being able to be part of Julia's baby's life because it's been a weird time for my friends who have babies and young kids. It's like you're raising your baby alone and like you can't have your baby socialize with your friends and vice versa. So it's been really lovely to come over and sit on the lawn and be with Julia and the baby from a distance. But now that we've moved in and we've like joined the pod, joined the family, will be able to actually be with her and like be part of her life and hold her and spend time with her and care for her. And that's what I was planning to do when I found out that Julia was having a baby. And I haven't been able to do that for these first months of her life because of COVID. So that's really exciting. But I know since you will be asking about her, that I should go ahead and tell you now that she won't be on my channel. Julia and Oliver have made the really beautiful decision to keep the baby's name and face off of social media until she's old enough to decide for herself what she wants to be to the internet and who she wants to be online. So she will be a really beautiful feature of my life for the time being, but that won't be a feature that I'll be able to share in any concrete way with you. But I will say that it's lovely. It's a really lovely and special part of what we've decided to do. I think I covered everything. The last the last three things on my notes list are identity muddle, which I feel like I did cover. Who else is feeling identity muddle right now? I hope I'm not alone. Being able to talk with a friend, which is just, something that it's just so great. I mean, we've been talking on Zoom, we've been chatting, but it's not the same. I feel really lucky to have a friend, to be in the house with a friend now. Two friends, obviously. I mean, Ollie's a really awesome person too. It's just, Julia's the one that I've known for so long. She's basically a sister. And then the last thing was to check in with you guys about Sadie. So I did it. Sadie, we did it. Where'd she go? What shall I put on my lips? I brought 3 lip products over here thinking I would choose among them. And I don't want to wear any of them. I want to wear some kind of like glossy thing. So I'm going to go get something like that. Actually, I think I am going to wear this. Yeah, okay. So this is Charlotte Tilbury Walk of Shame lip liner. And I'm mostly going to fill in my lips with that. And then I'm going to put a little bit of this Revlon Super Lustrous, the gloss, and Indulge in it on top of it. Oh, my lips look so gross. Have they looked that way this whole time? I bet they have. I'm sorry. So I applied the lip liner in a way that gives my lips kind of like a stainy effect. And I actually do really like how that looks, but my lips are so dry that I feel like I need a little bit of a gloss to make them feel comfortable. There we go. So that's like very thin blotted application of gloss. I always like the lip color to look like melded into the skin rather than like stamped on top, except for on rare occasions where that like stamped on look is really special. But I prefer this. And then there is one other thing that I wanted to do. One of the two things that I've bought with my budget this month. It's these clip-in colorful hair highlights. I don't know what happened. I think, no, I do know what happened. I was watching an old episode of Beauty News and Haley was wearing these green clip-in hair extensions and I was just like, I want that in my life and especially for YouTube. I just think it'll be fun. I think it's also, I've been feeling like it's time for a hair change. Like I've been sort of jonesing for a haircut and I can't get a haircut. And so this is like helping me. It's giving me a little hair excitement that I can't get in the usual way. It's so good. It's a little, I guess it's like a 10 pack and they were incredibly inexpensive. They were only like $12. I'll link them down below. And they're so nice. I can't believe how nice they are. Like soft. They're a little bit gently curled. These three, I already cut them to be the right length for my hair. And actually this one, they both look, oh no, they're the right length. They're like maybe a tiny bit on the long side, but I know my hair is only going to keep growing, so. Yeah, it's like best $12 of my budget I've ever spent. Kind of like that's how I feel. That's how I feel in this moment. Ooh, and I haven't filmed the intro yet. So I'm gonna be like looking like this when I film the intro, and you guys are gonna be like, a scandalo. But I guess that means that at this point in the video, you've already seen this, so it wasn't a big surprise for you. That's fine. I also feel like the hair things made the lip color a better choice, but also now that I've taken my bun down, I'm like too low. There we go. I think we're done here. I was nervous. I was nervous about telling you what we decided to do. I think in large part because it's so fresh and also, and I've indicated this in some check-ins, I think that it's just I don't like admitting that things have gone awry. And even though I'm so happy to be here and so grateful to Julie and Oliver, and I just feel lucky to have friends who like us enough, like Joe and me enough, and think well of us enough to have extended this offer to us, that they believe that we can live as a community to get together happily. And they're also people that we regard in that way as well. And, you know, I love my friends and I'm really happy to have good friends in this life, but it really drives it home when something like this happens. We needed a place to go. And the fact that we're able to make this decision, it has really driven home to me how incredibly lucky I am in this life to know such people, and to be who we are to them, to have them be who they are to us. So, you know, it's been awesome, but I think what I was trying to get at is that even though that's true and it's super wonderful, it has been a decision, a move that we made out of necessity because the pandemic did kind of like blow apart the life that we were living. And that's just it's a hard thing. It's still raw and it's a hard thing to admit, even though it's like nothing to be ashamed of. It's hard for me to make content around that, the fact that that happened. And this move is definitely like direct fallout from that having happened. So I think that's part of why I've been putting it off for so long. And that's why I was nervous to sit down and talk to you about it today. But I'm glad to finally be able to share with you what this next chapter is going to look like for us. And I'm also glad to be able to tell you that it's something so lovely and exciting, and it'll also just be an adventure, and it'll be an adventure that I'll be able to report back about to you on my channel. I hope it won't be too long before my next video. I know that videos have been a little bit spare this week, but obviously it's been because we've been moving and getting set up. And I hope to be back better than ever before too long. But if it is a little bit longer than usual between now and the next one, I hope that you'll understand and forgive me. Thank you so much for watching so much. And I hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself right now so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.